some of the most inspiring nuggets of wisdom from Azim Premji, who's really the czar of Indian IT, one of the most philanthropic entrepreneurs we have here. And if you're wondering why we decided to play those out for you today, it's because Azim Premji completes 50 years at the helm of Wipro, a company that he took charge of exactly on this day in 1966 at the age of 21, a company that he's transformed from a vegetable oil and soap maker to one of India's most respected software companies. Hello and welcome to this very special edition of ET Now Startup Central. I'm Chandra Srikanth, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bengaluru.
And I'm Krishna Kumar, coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios. First up, a check on all that's making headlines here at ET Now Startup Central, as Indian IT czar Azim Premji completes 50 years at the helm at Wipro. Today we have a very special guest joining us to help understand Premji's legacy and the lessons that it has for entrepreneurs and startups. In what has again sent shockwaves in the startup ecosystem, Ola has reportedly laid off over 1,000 employees affiliated to Taxi for Sure. While it's been more than a year and off since the acquisition, this is a series of layoffs across other startups like Flipkart, Snapdeal, among others. Microsoft recently hosted its first ever conference on machine learning and data sciences in India, signifying the huge potential they see in the country. We tell you why they are now keen to increase their engagement as enterprises and the government open up to manage vast amounts of data. A very exclusive chat coming up.
And Krishna, as promised, our top story today is about one of India's most inspiring entrepreneurs, inspiring philanthropists. We are, of course, talking about Azim Premji, the chairman of Wipro, and we're really going to try and trace his journey and also see what startups, what entrepreneurs can learn from him, and who better than to help us, in that quest than Sudhir Sethi, who is the founder of IDG Ventures, one of India's most prominent venture capital firms. But in an earlier avatar, he also had a very long stint at Wipro, spent over a decade there and worked very closely with Azim Premji. Sudhir Sethi, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now Startup Central. I want to start by asking you, you worked in Wipro in the early years and, during the hyper-growth phase that IT was beginning to see post-liberalization. Take us through your own memories of Azim Premji, the leadership lessons really that he holds.
So, I joined in '86, and I think I joined from HCL, and the first big thing which I noticed is the session which Mr. Premji took on the belief and value systems of Wipro. The code of conduct which we as professionals would be adopting, governance, ethics. And I've seen him do that during my 12 years. Every year he addresses new people. That was very powerful, and I must add that good habits, get into you, and he was a role model. He was practicing those value systems himself. So I think the biggest thing is to build a very large organization on value systems. And by the way, when I started the venture fund in 2006, within the first 6 months, we actually did the same thing. We all sat down around a table and said, what kind of firm will we build? What should be our culture? What will be our value systems, code of conduct, governance, and ethics? So I think there's a big learning there overall. I think the second thing which stands out during those 12 years is the amount of freedom which we as professionals, I joined as a mid-level professional and was senior when I left. We all had enormous freedom in terms of execution. We had goals, we agreed on goals, but we had freedom to execute. We had freedom to innovate. It's very interesting that in the first, I would say, 6 to 7 years of my venture capital time frame, in South India, the majority of the entrepreneurs used to actually come from Wipro. So Wipro today has, at last count which I did in May, I think, of this year, was Wipro today has generated over 600 entrepreneurs and over 450 companies run by these entrepreneurs. That is a huge recognition of the fact that innovation was the name of the game as far as Wipro was concerned when we were working there. In fact, these 600 entrepreneurs and 450 companies have raised over $1.5 billion. The market cap today collectively is about $4 billion. That's something which is an enormous contribution to the Indian ecosystem.
Sudhir, this is Krishna coming to you from ET Now's Mumbai studios. We are, of course, discussing Mr. Premji here on ET Now Startup Central. So I wanted to ask you if there are 2 or 3 things that startups can imbibe from Azim Premji. What exactly would they be? Management lessons, value systems, or for that matter, even leadership lessons?
Value systems, culture, the sense of professionalism, the sense of belonging of every employee to the firm. I think the other thing is the independence with which execution was done. That was very important. Leading by himself as a role model, Azim Premji led everything as a role model. Whether you call it value systems or beliefs or hard work, caring for the team. And I can relate to you that in one of the instances, annual appraisals used to take place, and one of the appraisals I was asked to meet Mr. Premji that look, appraisal is due. So I was like expecting 10 a.m. in the morning, and suddenly I get a call that, and we were in a place outside Bangalore. And Mr. Premji is going for a walk at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he says, why don't you join me for the next 45 minutes? And we discussed my appraisal for the next 45 minutes as such. So that's very interesting, very hardworking. The care part comes out, and I think Azim Premji has a very hard demeanor, but he's a really caring guy. I remember many years ago, there was an aircraft crash which took place in Bangalore. And me and some of my colleagues were supposed to be on that. It's a Bombay-Bangalore flight. In fact, the majority of the people, died on that flight. And so I'm sitting in the Wipro Bombay office, and Mr. Premji calls, and somebody says, hey, there's a call from, Mr. Premji. I said, I took the call, and he says, you were supposed to be on the flight. I said, no, I changed my plans. Oh, good. I don't know if you know, but the flight has crashed. And so the chairman of a company, and at that time the company must have been $400-500 million, calling up all the people who were supposed to be on the flight, and in his office informing, at that time we didn't have phones, so suddenly in the next couple of hours my wife knew that I was not on the flight. That's something very unique.
Interesting insights there, Sudhir, that, under the tough demeanor, he's actually a very caring person. And I guess that also shows, when it comes to his philanthropy initiatives, particularly the Giving Pledge that he signed a few years back. If you have to really transmit philanthropy at scale to some of these new age startups, entrepreneurs, how would you really go about doing it? I mean, Premji likes to say that, he's not thrilled by his wealth. He sees it as a fiduciary responsibility. But, that could be a very personal feeling. So how do you really transmit these values at scale to entrepreneurs?
So I think So look at what Azim Premji has done over the last many years. I think everything he has done, he has taken to a leadership level, number one. Number two, and that includes philanthropy, by the way. So there are very few people from India who have built enormous scale. I do believe that whether it is entrepreneurs or whether it is professionals, in our own way, everybody is contributing to philanthropy. Small or big is not the issue. What he has done is taken philanthropy to a different scale, which is unheard of in India. Second, he has institutionalized philanthropy. And third, what he has done is he has given it a constant source of funds. Those three are very big learning factors for entrepreneurs and for businesses in the future to just make sure you copy nicely.
All right, Sudhir, tell us what, according to you, is the lasting legacy of Mr. Azim Premji? Is it IT, or is it FMCG, or is it his philanthropy initiatives?
I think it's all of them. Wipro is today known as a leader in every single business, including philanthropy, including the private equity funds, which are functioning in that under the Wipro brand name or the Premji Invest brand name. To give you an example, Premji Invest is perhaps today India's first global private equity fund. They have operations in India, they have operations in China, they have operations in the US. That's not a mean achievement as such. So I think Azim Premji and Wipro stand for leadership. Yes, are they going through ups and downs? I think yes. Will they come out of it? I'm convinced they'll come out of it. Will they go through cycles again, like many other corporations? I mean, IBM has gone through its ups and downs. So will Wipro. So will Infosys. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the crux of the thing is, will the new leadership take it to greater heights? Knowing at least the culture when I was there, I have big faith in Wipro continuing as a leadership organization in the world.
Finally, Mr. Sethi, before we let you go, please tell us about your own favorite anecdote when it comes to Azim Premji. I'm sure a lot of ex-Wipro employees, have their own versions. You've given us that aircraft one, but apart from that, if there's any anecdote that you want to share.
I think Azim Premji is one of the biggest learners I have ever seen in my life. At one time, we were engaging with Dr. C.K. Prahlad and Dr. Jagdish Seth. And the hunger for learning can be seen, and one of them was to come on the board of directors of Wipro. I think Dr. Jagdish Seth came on the board of directors of Wipro. And what we saw was Azim Premji, a very humble person, going to the airport, picking up Dr. Jagdish Seth or Dr. C.K. Prahlad, and during the car starting his meeting. Right? That to me speaks volume of not only a very hardworking person, but person who values time, the right ethics. And I think all of us learned from that. At the end of the day, there is a very, very knowledgeable global person called Dr. Jagdish Seth coming into India. And the message to me as a youngster in Wipro at that time was, don't ever waste a second. Just go and get whatever knowledge he has. And I think that has played well.
All right, Sudhir, we might have to let it go at that. Mr. Sudhir Sethi, founder chairman of IDG Ventures, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on 18 Hours Startup Central to throw light on Mr. Azim Premji's legacy. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, Chandra, to the other big story that we're tracking over here, a story that has yet again sent shockwaves across the startup ecosystem. Ola has reportedly laid off over 1,000 employees affiliated to Taxi for Sure. Remember, it's been more than a year since the acquisition of Taxi for Sure by Ola, and now comes the layoffs. And this is a series of layoffs across other startups, unicorns like Flipkart and Snapdeal, among others. Rahul Dayama now joins us with more details on that from Bengaluru. Rahul, tell us, what exactly does Ola have to say on this? Have they confirmed the layoffs in the first place?
Well, Ola has not got into the specifics of the number of people being impacted with this move of Taxi for Sure being shut down, but they've gone on to say that the TFS value proposition that it brought to table has now been seamlessly integrated with the popularity of Ola Micro, really especially getting first-time users on board. Remember, the 6 rupee per kilometer ride by Ola has really given it a push, bringing a lot of first-time users to the platform. platform. Also, Ola has said that the integration with Taxi for Sure is complete. While initially when the acquisition happened in March 2015, Ola had said that Taxi for Sure and Ola will operate as separate entities. But eventually, with a lot of integration at the back end, with tech teams working closely, TFS's offerings were integrated to Ola app. And even over the last few months, Ola has been increasingly asking app users of TFS to migrate to their Ola app. On employees, again, they haven't got into specific, but I've said that they've absorbed as many employees as they could. Severance benefits has been offered to employees. A few employees we spoke to tell us that apart from a month's salary, also over 2 months of bonus is being offered to employees. And Ola has said that it has put outplacement services to really help affected employees find jobs. But this really comes at a time when Ola is battling stiff competition from Uber for market share in this heavily competitive market, and also a growing sign that we are seeing across various other unicorns, be it Zomato, Flipkart and Snapdeal, that have reported layoffs very recently. So it's clear now companies are coming back to the basics to ensure that they reduce cash burn and put in an effective business model in place.
Only bad news coming in there from Ola and TFS, but with that we come to the final segment of Startup Central today, Number Crunch, and the number we are crunching for you today, I'm afraid, is more bad news. 14,000, that's the number of layoffs expected at Cisco globally. This is according to a report by Reuters. Cisco hasn't yet confirmed this, but it's expected to really start doing this over the next few weeks, as it really tries to transform from a company focused on hardware to a software company. And you know, we really have to wait in Krishna, for the India impact of this, because India is a very important market for Cisco. They've been very gung-ho about Digital India. We had John Chambers on our show as well a few months back, but I think we'll really have to wait and see what the India impact is going to be.
Absolutely, Chandra. Considering that Cisco is an avid participant in India's startup ecosystem, they have made acquisitions in terms of big data startups and also looking to make more in the scheme of things of IoT startups, Internet of Things startups. So this is certainly not the best of news coming in from a company like Cisco. 14,000 layoffs. We'll have to see, more importantly, how much they lay off as far as Cisco's own India operations are concerned. But on that note, we need to wrap things up here on this edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thank you so much for watching. Don't go anywhere. Keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.